Welcome to the ETC Google Mail session. We're just getting set up and getting some tech issues dealt with, so just please hang by and we'll start shortly. And we do have, I am recording this. We have a YouTube channel, the ETC department. So all of these sessions that we're wording them, and then we're going to put them on. So just to kind of give you a heads up that if you're all right, if you ask a question, your voice. Okay? Yeah. Actually, what you see on the screen should be what actually shows up. Like I can share the screen. So hopefully everything's working. We seem to be having some
even there yet.
Tech issues. So hopefully we have some people join in. And yeah, and this, if we're going to have small sessions like this, then you guys can definitely just kind of ask questions as we go along, and like specific things that you've had questions with. And I'll show you kind of what I was planning to do, and then we'll probably have some time that we can help you out.
So should I be in my mail?
Yes.
I'm not. It's asking me to create a profile.
No. So let's skip. We don't want to do that. Just close this. Just go to Google and then just sign in. And you're in your mail, Jackie. Okay.
Did you see my wall this morning?
No. Sorry, we got a. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all right.
Not there? Okay. We'll go check over this.
Okay, so what I wanted to start with today is just to show you that really everything that George and I and all of ETC has figured out with Google, we've actually just Googled it. Like we've spent some time. Gordon has basically said to us, spend the time, go on YouTube, read the blog, see what's out there. We've just kind of taught ourselves a lot of this stuff. So don't be scared if you run into a question, how do I do something? The easiest way to figure that out is if you just go to Google. Nope. Might help if I type the address in right. .com. And you can. What's great about Google is if you don't need to ask it really specific kinds of questions. Like you might say, how do I use a filter in Gmail? You could even ask a question, and you're going to get tons of results that come up that are going to show you how to do that. So if you're not sure, do I need to use keywords? Do I need to use quotation marks? Do I need to use an advanced search? You could even just go to the Google search engine and actually type the question in, how do I do this thing in Gmail? How do I do this thing in Calendar? Chances are you're going to find someone else has asked that exact same question and has posted it somewhere as a blog, or Google has built help sites. So I really want you to encourage you to try that first. That's even how I've started doing a lot of my searching in Google is, how do I do this? Because those are usually the people ask us questions, how do I do something? And we just put it in that way. I don't think, I think George would probably agree with me that I don't think we've ever asked a question that no one else has ever asked before. There may be times that it's just something isn't possible in Google, but it isn't because no one has ever asked the question before. So I just kind of want to start off and just remind you of that try that first, and then please feel free, if you still aren't sure, if you're just not really sure how to ask the question, then feel free. So George is the tech mentor for the college, just like how Darla is the tech mentor for Moodle. George is the tech mentor for Google, and he can work with anybody. He's not just, even though his office is in the land science building, he's not just for land science, just like Darla isn't really just for AHT, even though she kind of gets used by AHT the most for Moodle. She's really for the whole campus. Same with George. And then same with the ETC department. You can contact any of us and we'll be able to help you out too. So that would be your next step. All right, so yeah, just remember to use those questions. It's a good place to start. But I wanted to go through some of the specifics with you of kind of, because a lot of what people are asking are things like, how do I use or my inbox is a mess. I'm losing emails. I don't like it compared to how Outlook used to sort things for me. And we've even had people say, like, I thought I've been losing things. I don't know where things are. So this is the default, and you've probably already moved away from the default. There's primary, social, promotions. You can add those tabs. For some people, those work great. Other people hate them. I personally hate them. They didn't work for me. This is actually a demo student account, and I wanted to bring this up just to show you. So Mark messaged my demo student account from Moodle. It showed up in the primary, but then Raj and Nicola messaged me from their Moodle accounts, and it went to promotions. So Google does a fairly good job sorting out by those tabs, but it may not sort it exactly the way you want them to. There's also an updates, I think, is the other tab you can add to this. Somebody like Joe Gunther, he's kind of picked and he's found a tab that works well because he gets lots of automated updates from like different cameras around campus or some of the servers or the temperature controls on some of the large servers here on campus, that he'll just get kind of daily emails that state kind of the status of some of that equipment. He doesn't need to see those. Those go straight to his updates folder. That works well for him. But I wasn't getting a lot of those kinds of emails. And then I found some things that went into promotions, should have also gone into primary. I don't have a social, like if you were maintaining like a Facebook page or a Twitter feed or something, that would go to your social, but I wasn't doing that through my work account, so I wasn't getting anything there. So those I found didn't really help. So you can get rid of those by going into your settings, and so configure inbox is if you wanted to change the tabs. So if you thought, well, I want to keep primary and maybe do updates, or maybe I do a lot of, if you're doing a lot of forums, I don't think this would count as Moodle discussion forums, but other forums and other websites, you may want to use those. So you may want to pick and choose, but I found none of these worked, so I wasn't going to use the tabs at all. So instead what I did, so this little gear icon is where we're always going to go back and forth to. This is where you're going to do all the settings and kind of set up your whole inbox. So if you go into settings, you're going to see across the top, general, labels, inbox, accounts. You're going to see a variety of things. I went to inbox first. So the default are those tabs. I didn't like them. I didn't want them. I liked how Outlook, because if you remember back the way that it just gave you the list of all your emails, the default with Gmail is that it's always going to put them in date order. So even if you've read some, haven't read some, haven't read some, it's going to just put them all in order. I liked in Outlook how as soon as something came in that I hadn't read, it automatically went to the top. Everything else went down to the bottom. The inbox type for that is called unread first. So even just doing that is a good way of kind of getting it so that everything that, as you get new emails, they automatically get bumped to the top. If you haven't read them, they stay at the top. So if you've had a busy day and you've left it where it just is putting it in date order or time order, you may all of a sudden only see 1 through 20, and there may be unread emails further down after 1 through 20 because it's only showing that many on the screen at a time. So it may be a good idea to just switch that to your unread first, so then automatically things you haven't read stay at the top. Then it's going to make, so then now there's these two sections. Inbox section 1 is the unread, everything else is underneath. You can then change that and get even more specific if you want to. Rather than having unread first, or sorry, you can keep unread first, but you can do something that's called priority inbox. And what that does is it makes up to four different sections. So you can now have, I can change this, and then this options, I can change them to whatever I want them to be. So I can have an unread section, I can have a starred section, I can have an important section. Like for an example, Rochelle Reese, she wanted a section, because she works with Jason, she wanted a section of just emails from Jason that went into their own block. So I walked her through, we set this all up, because once you have, so under more options, when you have labels set up, and we'll get into labels, you can say any email that's tied to a specific label will show up as a section in my inbox. So I'll go back to inbox here and I'll show you where you could put this. But so we set it up so that all emails from Jason go into that label, which is like a folder, and then from there they all stay in a block in her inbox. So then any email from him was right at the top of her section, and they stayed sorted out that way. So you can get into specifics that way. So if you had emails from specific people, they could go to a certain block. How I found this works best for me, and again, please don't feel that you have to do it the way I show you. I'm just going to show you some tips and tricks of things that work well for me, and then if you can kind of play around with them and make them work. So I had my first section as my unread section, and then I did an important section, and then I did an everything else section. If you have one of these as empty, it's just going to skip over it. You don't have to worry about putting something in there. So
how does it classify important?
Good question. So what important mail is it tends to be mail that comes directly addressed to you, and if it is like maybe a link to a blog or something like that that doesn't come, maybe comes to thousands of people, you can now tell Google this is an important message. So we'll start to learn messages that are important. And then if it was something that, like, I want to keep this in my inbox, but it's not really important, like you might think of as your important stuff as things to do. Like, I've read this, I need to do it, so it's going to go to my important section. Or it might be, well, I want to keep it, this is something interesting or something I need to deal with eventually, but not today. I'm going to uncheck it as important. It will then go to the everything else section. And when we go back to the inbox, I'll show you how you can do that. So then there's a few specific, like as you change the types of inbox, so priority inbox, you get some different settings. If I left it just as unread inbox or unread first, these sections, these options here would be a little bit different. So you it gives you some specific things. So right now, the inbox count, so it tells me, like right now over here on the side, oops, not do that yet. Here on the side, I can see I have 27 things in my inbox. So that when I set all this in, that number then is going to be the unread things just in that first section. That's what that number is going to tell me. So then I'm going to save my changes. It's going to sort everything. So this, like I said, is my demo account. I don't log into this very often. So, but I have my unread emails, which are now still sorted by date. So I have 1 of 36 of them here. And then I scroll down, and then I have my important, and I have everything else. So how I can tell if something is important or not is Google tries to figure it out, and it's going to put these little yellow flags, meaning that it's important. So when I read this one, so this was actually a post I put in Moodle. Moodle notifies both the instructor and you if you've posted in a discussion forum. So Moodle automatically sent this message to me. So it looks like it came from me, but it thinks it's important. It has that little yellow mark on it. When I go back to my inbox, and I'm just going to refresh my screen here. Now that one that I read should be, there it is in the important, because it has that little yellow mark beside it. I read it. I still want to keep it as important, goes in there. These ones down here, I read these, but it thinks it wasn't important, so it puts it in everything else. So if I'm like, well, actually, this message from Mark, I need to keep this. Like, this was an important message about a class that I'm in of his, or maybe it was a message from a student of something I needed to do. If I then click on this little yellow tab, again, just refresh my screen, and I go back down here, it now should have bumped up Mark's message into that important section. So you can teach it, you can move things in and out. You have to leave it wherever it tells it, wherever it thinks things are important or not. And it will start to learn messages from certain people. Like if you always say messages from this person are not important, or messages from this person are always important, it should start to kind of figure that out. But you may have to adjust things around. It's not completely perfect, but it works pretty good. So that's a way then you can organize and get, just to even sort your mail by what I've read, what I haven't, what's things I should be doing, what are some things I want to keep in my inbox, but I'm not going to work with right away. But still, all those messages are still in my inbox. And I have to go into each one individually. I can scroll across the top or use these older and newer buttons. I can go back and forth between them, but I don't know the others. I can't see the list of what else is in my inbox. So if I go back, what I can do is I can turn on a preview pane, which is very similar to what Outlook had. And again, that was something I really liked in Outlook, where it had on the side that showed me what's in my email, but then it also kept my list of my emails, so I could do both at the same time. So to do that, we go back into settings, and then so the gear icon, click on settings again. And the one I want to go to this time is labs. Now what labs are things that haven't become permanent features in Google. Some of the features, like there's some I'll show you later, there's a thing called stars, which are basically flags in Outlook. That used to be a lab. It eventually became a permanent feature, and now it's always there. A lab, there's just a chance that they may take it out with no warning. But I haven't ever seen any of these disappear, so I don't think we have to worry too much. But if you want to search for it, if you just start typing in the word preview, and then it should come up as preview pane. So mine is the third one in the list. So I enable that, and then there should be a Save Changes down at the bottom. Now you have to. Then there's one more place where you can toggle to have it on and off now if you want. Like it's the setting. The setting is there. Sorry about that. This little button up here, if you hover over it, it says Toggle Split Pane Mode. So you can have no split, you can have vertical split, or you can have a horizontal split. So you're probably going to want to have a vertical split. And now, once I pick an email, this now looks fairly similar to how Outlook functioned. I have my list of all my folders over on the left-hand side. I have my list of my emails in the center, and then I can read each email as I go through the list. Okay, so at this point now, this is pretty much how Outlook, the default of Outlook, basically was like this. So even this now, you're going to be able to, I can see emails, I can see my whole list, I can read them as I go through them. Everything is, it's a lot easier to find things now. But if I start having conversations with people, so let's say I had an email from an instructor, and then I emailed them back, and then they emailed me back, and back and forth and back and forth. There is a way that you can keep either an email is a separate from it's not attached to all the other emails, or if you have a conversation with somebody, all of those emails show up as one line in this list. That's called the conversation view. Some people hate it, some people love it. It depends really on how you kind of like to organize your emails. So again, if we go back into the settings, and in general, if you scroll down a little bit, there's this thing called conversation view. So you can turn that on or you can turn that off. So if you, and you can toggle it back and forth. So there may be times where you like to have it on because you want to keep track of, well, I had like 10 emails back and forth. I want to see them bang, 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 all on top of each other. Then once I'm done looking at those emails, then I might turn it off so that I don't see all that connected. Because what Google is going to try to do is it looks for similar subject lines and from similar people to connect all those emails together. I've had it where I had a conversation going and then somebody else sent an email that had a similar conversation, had similar words, and Google just automatically tacked it into that conversation when really it wasn't.
Yeah, that's what I get.
So yes. So then I was like, oh, I need to turn this off to get, or you can delete just a specific message in a conversation view, or you can move it out, or so you may want to toggle back and forth. You do have to go through your settings to do that. It might, maybe that's something that we could ask Google like to put a button. It's too bad that you couldn't just do that right on the main page. But so there may be uses of when you want it and when you don't. So that's just something to keep in mind. Especially if you have lots of back and forth conversations and you need to see what everybody said, you may want to have that turned on. But if you don't have a lot of back and forth, so maybe turn it off, and then it's going to have every email as a separate line in your list of all your emails. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so that's kind of the main ones in general. In there you can, so the conversation view, if you want to change your text, you like to change to a different font. If you want to change your signature, there is, if you go maybe I'll send you the link later. On the Olds College website, if you go to like staff communications toolbox, they do have a template that you can copy and paste. I think they're trying to encourage everybody to have the same general signature line, and then you can just go in there and edit your put in your own phone number, your title, your name, all of that. So it is, because I find if you just try to type this in, it makes it all double spaced, and it's hard to get like it nice, and they have it italicized in a different color, and they've actually done a good job. So if you can just copy and paste that in there. Now, talking about signatures, one thing with the signature is that it has to put it in. One thing that I did like about Outlook was that you could, like, say if I was having a back and forth conversation with you, the next time I emailed you, it knew that that your signature had already been attached the first time. It didn't need to keep putting it in. Google doesn't have that built in. Every time you send an email, it automatically has to put your signature in somewhere. So this little box where it says insert the signature before quoted text and replies, if you check this, that means it's going to put your signature right below whatever you've typed. If you uncheck it, it's going to put your signature way down, like maybe if you've had lots of back and forth and it's keeping all of those replies and everything in the email, it's going to put your signature way down at the bottom. So you're just telling it where to put your signature line. That's all. Vacation responder is in here as well. So if you need to be gone and you want to have a message saying, I'm out of office, that's where you would put it in. It doesn't give you specifics of time. So you can't say at like 9 o'clock in the morning turn on and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon turn off. In Outlook, you could get specific to the actual time of the day that it turned off and on. This will be at midnight on the days. So if you're back at work at noon on a day, then you'll just have to manually go in and turn that off. And I think those are the big ones. Have you seen anything or any questions in that?
I had a question, and when I'm sending a message, sometimes at the beginning you can put CC.
Yeah.
Once you start typing the message, that option isn't there anymore.
And it still is. It just hides it.
Okay.
And when we get into typing a message, we'll get into that.
Okay.
Okay. So while we're still in settings, the other two things that I wanted to show you. So we talked about inbox already. Are labels and filters. They kind of go, you can make them go together. They are meant to kind of function in collaboration, in connection with each other. So your labels are what your folders used to be in Outlook. Now, with a folder, how it functioned in Outlook is you would take one email and put it in one file folder. So it was just like if you took a piece of paper and you put it in a file folder. If I wanted to put it in multiple actual file folders in my filing cabinet, I'd have to make copies of it and put it in those things. Then if I was searching in a file folder, I could only look in one at a time. Outlook functioned a very similar way. With Google, now they're called labels, and almost if you think of them now, if I take this as my email, and instead of putting it in a folder, I can now take this piece of paper and I could put multiple like sticky notes on it. So those sticky notes then represent the actual labels. So I can now take one email and label it 20 different ways. And then when I search for it, if I go into the first label, it's there. If I go into the second label, it's there, and so on and so on. So it basically makes copies of it and puts it into all of your labels. To make labels, you can do it. You can just go into labels, and then you can show and hide them if you want to. If you make your own labels, there are some default ones, like if you use the categories of social, promotions, updates, forums. I have those turned off, so they're hidden. But if I was using those tabs, they would show up here on the side as well. The default ones that you get are your inbox, your starred, important, chats, sent mail, drafts, so on. Again, you can show and hide those ones if you want. And then if you want to make your own specific ones, you can create new folders. Or new labels, and then you can have like sub-labels of labels, just like before. I think, though, you have to be careful. There's a limit to the number of characters in length that it can be. So if you start to run out of room because you've typed quite long ones, you just may need to start shortening them up. Because the label is like the main one / subfolder name / subfolder name, like the name of it carries all of it with it. So you just have to remember that even though you might be creating little short sub-labels, you have sublabels of sublabels of sublabels, that all adds up to the length of your name. So, and then you can hide them, you can edit them, you can remove them. So I'm just going to make a new one. And let me call this all student emails. So it automatically put it in over here on the left-hand side, kind of underneath the default ones that I get. And then as I create them, it automatically puts them in alphabetical order, and you can't change the name of them. Or sorry, you can't change the order of them. So if there's one that you always want up at the very top, you might want to put the letter A in front of it or put a number. So if you call them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, those would get bumped up ahead of anything that started with an A. So you can kind of force an order by putting a number or A, B, C, D, E, and then the name of it. You could do it that way too. So it's just something to keep in mind, that you can't click and drag to change the order of your labels. It's all alphabetical, numerical, and then alphabetical. There are a few things in this More section of your labels over here on the side. You may find, like, and it just automatically put like important chats, all mail, trash. Your spam might be down here. You can take these, if you look quite closely between kind of the more and the less, there's a light gray bar here. You can take any of these default ones that Google gives you and you can drag them above or below that line. So like starred mail, maybe I'm never going to star anything. I can click and drag this down below the line, and now it's down here. I can click on less, and I can hide it. So basically moving any of these Google ones down below this line kind of just temporarily hides them. Things maybe you're just not using very much, but Google just automatically makes them for you. Spam, I would recommend leaving it up at the top because you may want to check that every once in a while. Spam has a pretty good spam filter, but there's the odd time, especially I've had emails that come, even though they come addressed directly to me, if they come from Yahoo accounts, Hotmail accounts, those tend to go into spam. Google just filters it. And plus we have the Barracuda filter and we have Google Spam filter. So now you should be seeing very, very little getting right through to your actual inbox, but you may see quite a high number of things that's actually showing you some of the stuff that's getting caught in your spam. So it's a good idea. Check that every couple days. So you might want to drag, if it is down below this line, click on it, hold it, then drag it up, and it should drop up at the top. And then it's, because if you leave it down in the bottom, you might not remember to check it very often. All mail is where all of your mail exists, just like it sounds. So even if you've moved things into folders, if you've archived them, they get moved into all mail. So archiving moves to all mail, deleting moves to trash. So trash gets emptied in 30 days. All mail or archived mail will stay forever. As long as you've got your account, it's there. Okay, so labels, just like folders, if you don't set up any filters, you can just click on an email, drag it over, drop it in. Or if I go back to my inbox, sorry, so I want to make sure I haven't saved. I've been clicking on things, make sure I haven't done something I want to save. I think we're good. So I could just click on one of these, bring it over, drop it in. Or once I've selected an email, once you've selected one, you'll see there's a few more options up here at the top. And I could then pick labels. If I pick labels, it's going to label. So let me just say, I'm going to put this one. We'll just call it all student emails. So now I can see this email is labeled as inbox, and it's labeled as all student emails because I clicked the label button. If I click the move button and then select, I guess they're all student emails. If I do that, then it's actually going to take it out of inbox and put it just in that folder. So it basically takes off that inbox label. So that's the difference between moving and labeling. Labeling will keep it in your inbox, but also add that sticky note to it. Now, if there's a message that, well, I could have used this, I could maybe use this in the future, I don't want to completely delete it, I should hang on to it somewhere, I don't really have a folder I need to put it in, I just kind of want to remember it someday, that is where you would archive it. So archiving it is this button over here with the little arrow pointing down. Deleting it would be the garbage can. So deleting it completely means in 30 days it's gone. Archiving means it goes to that all mail folder and you'll still always be able to find it by searching for it. So just some things to keep in mind. Okay, again though, if everything's just going to get dumped in my inbox. I don't have any way to kind of filter my messages out. Maybe I'm getting emails from people that I want to keep them in their own separate folder, but they don't have to go right to my inbox. I don't need to deal with them right at this instant. What you can then use are things called filters. So I'm going to go back to your settings, and I'm going to click on filters. So filters are what rules used to be in Outlook. And I found rules were kind of, I had a hard time getting them set up. I find it's pretty easy in Google, so maybe hopefully you will see that it's pretty similar too, or it's pretty easy to get these set up. So you can make a filter right from scratch, but probably the easiest way to do it is from an existing email. So I'm going to go back to the inbox, and let me pick this one from, I have one, this is again, like, it was a student account, it's a demo student account, so I have a bunch from the Student Association. So I'm going to click on this email, it opens up. Then in this More button, so once I have an email selected thinking, I kind of like these emails to go to a certain label over on the side. Then if I go to this More button, I can now click filter messages like these. So I'm telling Google, take this message and let's start filtering ones like this. So this is saying that it automatically had this list, all students, oldscollege.ca. You may need to kind of tinker with this a little bit. It's going to look for something in that email message. So I might even, just to make sure that this works, I might even add to this filter, so any messages that come to all students at oldscollege.ca, and that's probably going to be good enough. You may want to do it the other way. Messages that come from a particular person, you would put that in the from address. Maybe it's emails that come from a variety of people, but you've always told them, put our course name in the subject line when you email me. Then all of those, as long as the students always put that in the subject line, or somewhere in the text of their email has the words AHT1000, then all those emails will get sorted over into a, basically a filter puts your emails in a label for you. So you may have to kind of figure out, you might have to go back and fine tune this. If it's from a variety of people, maybe it could be from person A or person B or person C or person D. You could put that in the from and then just put a capital O, capital R. The or has to be capitalized, but I could put from, maybe if Bev emails me, or no, I think you have to take out the, there we go, and then or Stacy, or oops, Amanda. So if I get email from Bev or Stacy or Amanda, then it's going to go into that folder. So you can kind of you can play around with this. You can really get into some specifics. I think Darla tried it with, like, she took a class list of like 30 names and put the ors in between each one. And she said so far it's been working fairly well because she wanted to have a folder, a label, where if a student emailed her from a certain class, so students from class 1 went into their own label. Students from class 2 went into another label because her inbox was just so full of so much stuff from so many students. She wanted it to automatically sort out. So there's lots of options you can do with that. It might be from people, it might be to an address, it might be always the same subject line, words in the email, whatever. Okay, so, and you can have multiple things. So I have to, and it has the words all students at oldscollege.ca. So once you've kind of set that up, you create a filter with this search. Then you're going to tell Google, okay, email with all of this to, from information. What is it going to do with it? So then is it going to skip the box? Is it going to go straight over to a label on the side? Or is it going, well then you should probably tell it which label you want it to go to. So all these all student emails, I want them to go to an all student email. So if you can do this with all staff emails. And I do this with my regular work account, is I have a filter set up. I first made a label, an all staff email label, and then I went in and created a filter that said whenever an email comes in that's addressed to all staff at oldscollege.ca, I told it to skip my inbox and go straight over to the side. It just goes straight over into the side over there. So I don't need to worry about, because really, all staff emails, they're things that I should read, but I don't need to stop what I'm doing to read them. I'll get to it when I have time. And that's the whole thing of using filters, is trying to use more efficient time of your inbox so that you're not distracted by, oh, something came in, oh, it was just an all staff email. Oh, another thing came in, and it's interrupting what you're working on. If you take these emails that aren't as important and move them, or let Google move them, and then when you have time, maybe you allocate, okay, after lunch is my time, I check my all staff email folder. I don't have to do it right away because I know it's something that's just an all staff information that's gone out. So you can kind of decide, or maybe it's emails from a certain class. Okay, from 1 till 2 every day is when I'm going to decide to work on this class. So then I check that folder. So you can kind of, you can block your time out to check how your email's been filtered. So you can decide, and filters also work. There is this option, never send it to spam. If you found, if you go into your spam folder that something went in there that shouldn't, you select that email, do the filter messages like this, and then you would pick never send this to spam. So that one person who was emailing me that I needed to get messages from, I went to her message, went to this option, clicked on never send it to spam, and then they went to my inbox instead. So it's a good thing to do. Now, down at the bottom, if it recognizes that, oh, look, does also apply filter to 15 matching conversations. So it's recognizing that there are 15 other messages already existing. If I select this, so what it's going to do is it's going to take all the existing emails plus any future emails. If I uncheck this, then I'm just saying, okay, from now on, now just filter the messages. Keep everything else the way it was. Don't filter the past stuff. So I'm going to do all 15. I'm going to create the filter. And I told it to archive these. So now you'll see I don't really have any. I think it should have taken pretty much all of my all student emails and put them over here. So now when I go to my all student emails, I have 8 I haven't read yet. When I see that over here on the side, I click on that, and they're all in there. So ones that came from the Student Association Vice President of Communications. I think Jacqueline has sent out a few all student emails. That's Jen D'Onofrio sent one, Pablo Ortiz sent one. So it's collecting from anybody who sends out an all-student email, went into that folder. So now if I was working on something else and I went to my inbox, so maybe I'm working on this message from Raj, then I see all the emails, oh, number 9 pops in, I'll read it later. I can focus on what I'm doing and I'm not distracted by that email popping up. Okay, so really if you start looking at what people are talking about in blogs about filters and Gmails, is they're really going to be talking about using the filters as a way to try to get away from having hundreds of emails in your inbox, take advantage of it trying to sort your emails for you, and then also as new emails come in, trying to keep track of things that if they are important and they're from specific people, you might want to just leave those coming into your inbox. But if it's things like your all staffs, students asking questions that you can wait to maybe answer them during your office hours time, set up filters for stuff like that. Okay. Then with your emails, then if you know that one has come in, you're not really sure where it went, what happened, Google, you can't really sort it columns like you could in Outlook. You could sort by date, by inbox, by address, all of that. What you do in Google is up here in this top bar, because I'm just going to go back to my inbox, is I would then type in a name. So let's say I'm like, well, I know Raj emailed me something. I'm going to start typing in his name. So then it's going to sort it just by, so I've selected his name. It's now going to show emails just from him. I could then get into some real, so you could just type someone's name, or you could type in a label name. So if I go back here and I just start typing all student emails, it recognizes that. I pick that one, it automatically takes me there. But I can get into some pretty specific things by who is it from, what am I searching in? I can search specifics like mail and spam and trash, because, oh, did I delete that? Did I not? Where did I put that? So maybe I want to search in all of those. Oh, but I can't remember who it was from, but I know it was yesterday. I can search within certain days. Well, I knew it had an attachment. It was really big. I deleted it by accident. It has an attachment of a certain size. So you can get into really some specifics of how you're searching. So rather than sorting by columns, Google, you're searching by, basically it looks for it through your email list like it does through the internet when you ask Google to search for whatever in a search engine. So something just to keep in mind. You can get into very specific searches. If you were, you could even just Google search terms. Actually, let me clarify that a little more. Google mail. So I just searched for Google Mail search terms. There's an advanced search that tells you these are the operators that when you're putting in that bar, you can put from, colon, their name. To, subject, the or, label, has an attachment. Maybe you remembered, well, I know that I put a green star on this, but I can't find it. You could even put has green star, and it will find everything that has a green star on it. So you can get into some pretty specifics. If you ever forget what some of those are, I just Googled, what did I type in? Google Mail search terms, just in the Google search engine. I went out of my mail, typed that in, first one is exactly what I needed. So, and then once you find the email, then you could always make a filter from it if you needed to, right there. And then one of the last things I wanted to show you that some people have, because it's not very obvious, is that inside of your mail are your contacts as well. But to get to them, up here with this mail with this little drop-down triangle beside it is where you could access your contacts. I don't have any in this account. I should have put a few in just so I could show you some options in here. But these should have been the contacts that would have migrated over with you when we did the move this summer. You may have lots and lots of them, because what Outlook did was it automatically kept people, if you just manually typed in their address, hit send, didn't make them a contact, it still remembers that address in the background. Google will do the same thing and put them in as other contacts. So even if you don't make it an actual contact person, Google will still try to remember that address. So if you have some people selected, you can click some names. Once you start to click some names, another button will pop up here that will have like multiple heads. You can then say that's a group. And then from there, once you have a group made, you can then go back into your mail, type in that group name in the to section of an email, and it will automatically email it to all those people. So I apologize, I should have put in some, and let's just pull in a few quick. Let me just put in my, I'm going to put in Stacy, and then I'm going to put in one for, oops. Okay, so now I have Bev and Stacy in my list. When I select them, this option now comes up where I can put them into a group. I'm going to create a new group, and I'm going to call this ETC. Okay. Now when I go back to my mail, and I go compose a message, when I start typing in ETC, now this might take, I might not recognize it right away. There it is. So right there, these ones on the top are from my own contacts, the ETC group that I made, Bev and Stacy. I select that, and automatically it drops their names in there. I could then add, well, maybe I need to include George in this email. I'm going to, I can still add names. Well, this one I didn't want Stacy to have. I could take her out just in this email, and so on. Now, like you said, it looks like the CC part has disappeared because it just has those addresses up there. If I was to click up here, it comes back. I just click on CC, and then I could add the name in.
Okay, if you start typing, does the CC disappear?
It
Like, if you type your
disappears.
message, can you get the CC
Yep.
back?
Then as long as I just click back up in this bar with the address,
Okay.
then CC, then I have to still select it, and
Yeah.
then I could add in, okay, maybe this is going to, and then if I go down here, so then it collapses it. As soon as I go back down to type in more text, oh goodness, I can't type very well today, but then like, oh right, this is supposed to go to one other person, I can come back up here and I can still select it. So it just collapses the address bar when you're not typing it, that's all. So, and then your subject line, yeah, you can just add whatever you need to. It doesn't collapse that, it just collapses the, yeah. And then one other little trick I want to show you, and then I think we're pretty much done, unless you guys have some questions, is especially if you have two screens, this right now, I can't move, oops. I thought that was good. Just close that. Okay, so I can't move it. All I can do is minimize it, and I want to be able to move it to my other screen if I have two screens. This is a neat little trick. So in this middle, the arrow with the two arrowheads pointing in both directions, if you hold your Shift button and click on that middle icon, it now allows me, I can move it around. So if I had two screens hooked up, I could move this over.
Yeah.
So, but it's just hold your Shift, click on that middle arrow, and then it kind of unlocks it, and it allows you to move it around.
Yeah, that's handy.
Yes. That was a nice one. I'm glad we figured that one out. And then down here at the bottom are all of your options of attaching files. If you want to attach a picture, putting in a link. In Outlook, if you used to put like colon or semicolon dash end bracket, it made a happy face. Now you've got like hundreds, thousands of little emoticons. There's even little symbol, like there's little ones that move, like clapping hands and thumbs up, and you could put little icons for holidays or whatever you wanted to put in. So you've got lots of options now that Google's built in if you like to put in those little things in your emails. Okay, so those are some of the basics that I wanted to go over, especially with trying to sort out your inbox. That if you just leave it and let Google put everything, you're just going to get, it's just a big dump of all of your emails basically in date order. Doing it with some filters, doing the unreads, doing the importance versus the unimportance, filters and labels, I think that will probably help a lot trying to organize those out. Okay. Good. And remember, if there's anything, hopefully this worked. If it didn't, hopefully the recording worked, and if it didn't, we'll be recording it again on Thursday. And you can always give us a call. We can always help you out. And again, just try Googling, how do I set up a filter? If you're really stuck, there's lots of YouTube videos if you'd like to watch someone walk you through it. And also there's lots of people who've just written it out in text. You can just read it. There's lots of places out there to help you. So any specific questions, things you were hoping that we'd talk about and I didn't?
I think it's great. I like the new layout of my inbox now.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, that's what we were just to. And remember, you can always go back to Outlook. We don't want to advertise that too much, but the option is still there that you can always go back. For some people, the way that they need to sort their emails, they have to go back to Outlook, which is fine. And IT has reassured us that as long as we have Word and PowerPoint and Excel, we will still have Outlook because it's all the Microsoft software together. Outlook is just the software program that you use to read your emails. So if, like, because Outlook was reading the emails that lived in the server here on campus, you can now use Outlook to read the emails that live in Google. So
Is George around?
George is right there. Oh, he's right there.
George, can we grab these?
So
We need these right now.
But
It's-
with Outlook, aren't you restricted on
Yeah,
a
you take-
space? Because
okay,
I know the
Justin's
timing
gonna
of
do
this transition was perfect with Microsoft lost me.
no, and now it's because really Outlook is just how you're viewing. You're just viewing your Google emails through Outlook. So your emails still live in Google, and you actually have way more storage because it is in Google. It just is how you like to look at them and how it sorts them out. So some people who just, it didn't work with the way that they needed to sort their emails and search for things, we said, then just, here's the link, sync it up, go back to Outlook. We didn't want to make it very painful for people. But with Outlook, you do need to have it. You need to have it synced up on your computer. You could take it with you to your home and use your home Wi-Fi. But if you use a different computer at home, here, when you go to somebody else's house, you wouldn't be able to use Outlook. You would have, but if you have Gmail, you can use it anywhere in the world. As long as you can log into the internet, go to Google, and it looks exactly the same. And it's fun with Google. You can do lots to personalize it. In here, there's these themes. So you can get to it through settings or just through themes. And you can add, you can add color, you can add pictures, you can add your own picture. If you go custom light or custom dark, you can upload your own picture, or you can pick ones that they've given you. Like photographers have put pictures up for Google that you can just use. If they have, just as a neat little thing, if they have a tiny little clock in the corner, like Ocean has a little clock, in the morning the picture will be different, at noon it will change, and at night it will change. It shows like a sunrise, a day, and then a sunset. The ones with the blocks, mountains, is a different picture every day. So it's the same picture all day, but Monday will be a different picture than Tuesday and Wednesday and so on. So it's kind of neat to see what's the picture I'm going to get today. I found, though, with some of the pictures, like I'll just show you if I pick treetops. When you start to get lots of folders here on the side, or labels, so this down here where there's kind of a bit of a green, as you start to get more and more, you might find, because it's white text on that, sometimes it's hard to read. So, but if you have a short little list of folders, it worked fine. So you may have to play around with them, find one that kind of fits. If you have lots and lots of labels, you might want one that doesn't have any interaction with the picture over here on the side. And you could change it every day if you wanted to. Go into your themes and pick a different color, pick a different picture. It's up to you. You can really personalize it with Google, which is nice. And then, and if you do start to get lots and lots of labels over here on the side, there is this, so above, so that's your chat window. If you decide to use it, there's an instant messaging, a chat option. There's Google Hangouts that you can do, which we'll do sessions on later. But if you want to get rid of that and move it down, because it does take up quite a bit of space, especially if you do have lots of labels. If you look, there's kind of 3 little tiny dots right above my hand there. If I move up just so my bar gets selected, I see those 2 lines and the arrows pointing. If I click and hold that, I can then drag this all the way down, and it stays down there. So now I've got a lot more space for my labels that this now isn't taking up. So, but it's very tiny, those 3 little dots. You just have to get it just so it shows those 2 lines with the arrows pointing up and down, and then you can drag it down too. Okay.
It's totally full already.
Yeah.
There's no more or less.
And then you can collapse them if you do have sub folders. There is that little arrow, and then you can collapse them in or out. So that's about our hour. If you have any other questions, or
All right, thank you.
you're welcome. But yeah, just Google it, ask us for help. You're stuck. And just if you think, well, could Google do this? Just ask the question. Can Google help me sort like this? And then who knows what it might be able to find for you. So don't feel like you have to fit it in, like just the way that the settings are, the stamp. Like there's lots of ways you can personalize it and make it fit specific labels and filters and all of that stuff.
So when it goes to archive, is there a folder that's totally archived?
That's the all staff. So, or the all mail, sorry, all mail. So it's not in, it's in my more section. I click on more. As soon as I archive an email, it goes into that all mail.
Cool. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that was something that, cause some people trashed things, because in Outlook, it wasn't totally deleted until you emptied out your trash.
Yeah.
So they treated trash like an archive. Here, if you really need to archive it, archive it. If you need, like, you want to completely get rid of it, you never want to see it again, then trash it. So, yeah. Awesome. Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll be back.
Yeah, you should make these just mandatory. Everybody should,
Yeah.
all staff should have to come.
Yeah.
That would be nice if